It is Friday, February 28th, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of CoinMetal. It was a very late get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday. My deepest apologies. Had like 8 billion things I was taking care of, and so, I had to catch up on the other side of my Jiu-Jitsu class, and it put me back home just a little bit later than I had wanted to be. Damn it. Oh well. We're here now, and that's what matters, right? And so, as far as what we covered today, we didn't do a whole lot of sparring, and I'm moderately thankful of that. I like to spar quite a bit, but at the same time, I am recovering from multiple injuries. And last one, I kind of aggravated my back a little bit, and so I'm not really as enthusiastic about getting right back to rolling, But at the same time, it was a good class. I think I learned quite a bit. It was an interesting takedown, and basically we covered a regular takedown, and then something quite similar to it that's actually like a sacrifice takedown. Actually, I think they're all three of them sacrifice takedowns. And I liked it quite a bit, although I had a lot of trouble with the mechanics of it. It's definitely something that I'm going to have to work a lot more. Just a lot more. But yeah, it was an interesting one where you like assume that your opponent has a hold of your lapel, right? And so you reach up under your opponent's arm and you grab their lapel from the inside, right? And then you grab their sleeve and rotate downward, with your grip on your left hand, so that their elbow is starting to point up, right? And then you swing into them, or that was the part that I had the most trouble with, where you have to swing your leg in, like your right leg in, and that throws them over the left side. And like I said, I had the toughest time getting it, but the very few repetitions that I actually got it on, I was able to keep my opponent tight enough in on the collar grab that by the time they were on their back, I was able to bring my leg around and get to a full mount position, which was good. And I think the last two of them, my opponent was giving me a little bit of additional resistance, as one would experience in trying to assume the mount in such a way. But yeah, he gave me a little bit of resistance, but nonetheless, I did manage to get my leg over the top there and sneak that bad boy in there. Get that mount. But he actually got one off too that I really liked, where he managed to get it all the way up to knee on belly, which is, in my mind, it's just as good. If by the time you get to an upright position on that with your opponent down, rather than ending up laying, which seemed to be what the instructor was suggesting, I thought that using the opportunity in the movement of all that weight and all that momentum to try and get myself back up on top of my opponent, and it seemed to work out pretty good. I kept visualizing it as ending with a full mount position, and I think I kind of surprised my opponent, or my teammate rather, the first time I did it, because like I said, the teacher was instructing it as you pull the person over and you get this great ass sweep on them, but you end up in a down position, and I didn't think that was the best way to end that, especially because you can keep the grip pretty much the entire time through the movement. You can keep that grip on the collar, and when you do bring it in, one thing my opponent did, which I thought was really cool, was he made sure that he rotated downward until my elbow was pointing almost straight up and down. And at that point, I really didn't have any ability to hold him out away from me. He was able to collapse my arm really easily and just throw me right into it. And so I thought that was pretty spiffy. But yeah, still tending some wounds. Got a remaining issue with one of my hamstrings / hips. A little bit of popping and crunching in my knees. Although I expect that to get a little easier as I go along. You know, I slowed down for just a little bit, but I've been trying to up my pace a little and try and push it. You know, get back to pushing it again. You know, that's like my general tendency is to be pushing slightly uphill. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music, and of course we're going to go with Body Count. But what song? I think that I've spent enough time away from Bloodlust that we can go ahead and get back into it. So here it is, The Ski Mask Way, here on CoinMetal. And that was Killing Joke with Seeing Red. Wasn't exactly planned, but neither was doing the show naked. So I had to resolve one of those issues. So you guys had to deal with just a little more good music, and I got to put some clothes on. So everybody won, right? Anywho, as far as what we're going to get into today, you know me, I got to get into any kind of lunacy involving CSW, because the man he never stops producing utter lunacy. And I don't know whether to get into why this is such a stupid fucking claim to begin with, or to wait until after. I think I'll let my patience and my my patience and my kind of, ability to hold back. I'll let that win this time. Anyway, so this is on Cointelegraph.com. It's by Adrian Zimidzinski. And going by the picture and the name, let's check something really quick, because that's a kind of a small picture. Come on, make the damn picture bigger. Maybe. I don't know. Yes, yes, penis. Let's go ahead and get back into this thing. Courts will seize BTC with miners' help, self-proclaimed Satoshi Craig Wright. And this is authored February 27th, 2020. Self-proclaimed Bitcoin BTC creator Craig Wright claims that Bitcoin can and will be seized to accommodate court orders. On February 26th, Bitcoin influencer Peter McCormick published screenshots showing Wright claiming that the first seizure of Bitcoin by courts will happen this year and won't require private keys. That's going to be really fucking special. Let's see here. Bitcoin seizure through miner coordination. Instead, it will supposedly happen through miner and node coordinating to comply with a court order, he concluded. Quote, without keys, BTC will be confiscated. Code is law, and courts can mandate patching code. Bitcoin is not encrypted, it is economic. In the second and last screenshot, Wright asks for a list of firms that lost Bitcoin, such as hacked exchanges. He claimed that he wants to, quote, ensure that people get their money back starting this year. He said, quote, you see, Bitcoin is easily confiscated, easily returned to the owner. Wright's critics speak against him. William Shatner, the pop culture star and actor that played Captain Kirk in the original Star Trek series, recently expressed the idea that Wright is not the creator of Bitcoin. He said, quote, ask yourself, why would someone claim to be Satoshi and offer zero proof? Either put up or shut up, right? Shortly after, Changpeng Zhao, the co-founder and CEO of major cryptocurrency exchange Binance, said that Wright, quote, is a fraud. When later explaining the reason why he said it, he told Cointelegraph, quote, he claims to be the founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, which is a lie. He hurts the credibility of Bitcoin and is a disgrace to our entire industry. I don't know that I would go that far to say that, because, he would actually have to have some sort of credibility to begin with in order to put a stain on the industry. And I don't think he's ever actually achieved that status. I'm sure that he has in the minds of some people, but he has yet to prove any of his fucking claims. Anyway, let me check something here. I want to see if it gives us any more to this. Oh, it's just... Okay, so Peter McCormick on Twitter. Okay, lad, LOL. CSW, the first BTC seizure by courts, blah, 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 this year. Let's see here. Let's see if we can find any more. Does anyone have a list, blah, blah, blah. Lost company, funds, yeah. So, that's bullshit. Coda's law, blah, 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 that's bullshit. Okay, so I wanted to come back to this so that I could actually check what the thread looked like. And so the first one here was by Yudi. He says, who is this guy? Replying to Peter McCormick. Klaus Lovegren. Oh, let's see. Follow that thread. It's like a sub-thread here. And the first thing is it's a gif of Pinocchio with his nose increasing in size. Andrew Greeley says, looks like someone who should learn to code. Bitcoin Venom says, he seems like the kind of professor with a shitload of degrees and patents and some kind of magic lamp or something. Bet that would kick the Mount Gox situation? What the fuck does that mean? Let's see. Crypto Armor says, this guy's completely lost the plot. Yes, absolutely. Let's see here. I'm not reading all of them, but just some of them. Oh yeah, DNM737B says, Satoshi Nakamoto, isn't that obvious? Easily confiscatable money, just like in the white paper. It never stops, man. It never stops. Anyway, I wanted to get back to this main thread. Let's see here. So we're back to the main thread under Peter McCormick. Klaus says, will he now claim he lost his Bitcoin from the Genesis block and ask the law to give it to him so that he can show he is Satoshi Nakamoto? I don't think so. BB says, in response to that, maybe as long as he satisfies the courts, I don't see any problem, do you? Skype says, he desperately wants that Bitcoin he lost at Mt. Gox then. It is, after all, the earliest Bitcoin Faketoshi has ever been proven to actually own, if memory serves. Back then he called it Bit Space Coin. Let's see, 011101010 says, and it wasn't like it would like 14 he had on there. Oh, let's see. Wasn't it like 14 he had on there? What a wackadoodle. Yeah, indeed. Farmer Booze says, he probably tweeted this after successfully completing the Hello World tutorial. Let's see. Cryptosaurus says, when I read that name, he really needs to go away forever. He should find a new hobby. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Let's see. Stefanescu Liviu says, funny thing is, even after this won't happen, like all the BS he said before, there will still be CSW is Satoshi believers, and BSV is the real Bitcoin. Probably a few hundreds at most, but oh my god, wake up people. Yeah, I agree. Let's see, Red Salmon says, LOL, I dumped all my BSV last Friday when it took 3 hours for 12 confirmations on the blockchain. Straight up scam, ha ha ha, yep. I don't know about whether it's a scam per se, but it shouldn't take that long to get confirmations. Fly on the wall, apparently you don't understand how finding a block works, and that it could take just as long on BTC as BSV. This is not called understanding what you're talking about, or this is called not understanding what you're talking about. Yeah, whatever. MTCBTC says, so he's going to completely invalidate the premise/viability of Bitcoin, which will crash the price, and then he's going to ensure that all the Mt. Gox victims get their now worthless money back. Does he expect thanks from them for this fat nothing burger? Somebody actually replied to that one. He's going to start forking BSV, which you're right, completely invalidates its purpose, but will his followers be smart enough to figure it out? Maybe. Let's see, this guy needs a shrink. That's by Crypto Sombrero. He doesn't feel embarrassed lying to the whole world. Yeah, sociopaths don't. Crypto Prophet says, why can't he just find his own lost 1 million coins? Might be a better use case of his time. Or a use of his time. Let's see, Blockless Monster says, because they weren't his to begin with, most likely. Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. And Crypto Prophet says, well, yeah, obviously, haha, he is a known pathological liar that has been debunked countless times. Yeah, and the burden of proof is on him, and it's one big, huge lie. Yeah. Let's see here. Second was a few, blah, blah, blah. You know, the only function I can see of him being in the media at all at this point is that he gives some sort of buffering to people that are in the core aspect of Bitcoin. You know, where they're all about the SegWit and the second layer solutions and all that other bullshit. And I really think that's like his sole function. I often doubt that the court hearings are even happening, or any of the bullshit that we're finding online sometimes. I mean, it's like, I can't envision an American court putting up with the level of bullshit that he is dealt. I can't imagine it. The motherfuckers must be on Oxy down there or something, or they're like shooting up in the courtroom, whatever, they're nodding off. But if all they were to do is look the man up on Twitter and review the public's general perception of him, they would understand exactly why people think he's a fraud, and why the shit that comes out of his mouth is most likely bullshit. And that one we read was a perfect example of it. You know, I held back before commenting on why him saying what he said was complete and utter bullshit, and that one person actually did note it for us. Let me see if I can scroll back to it. Here it is. So he's going to completely invalidate the premise/viability of Bitcoin, and that was by BTC. This again is one of a number of reasons why I've never believed that CSW was Satoshi Nakamoto. You know, for one, he blocked me before I got suspended on Twitter. He blocked me like a little bitch when I just asked him a simple fucking question. A simple question. And all it was I really don't see the use of your network right now necessitating these huge ass blocks. Why are you bothering to increase the block size limit to this extent? Ultimately, won't it mean that you just kick off the people that aren't pumping enough hashing power or bandwidth to the network to handle these huge blocks without causing massive latencies across your network? And he blocked me for that. It's like, okay, dude, really, what game are you fucking playing here? I mean, are you Satoshi Nakamoto? Couldn't you just answer that question off the fly if you actually knew the answer to it? I mean, really, that's like something that you would figure out during a spitball session. You know, it's not something that somebody surprises you with during an interview or just a random fucking question on Twitter. You know, you're this big software engineer. It should have been really fucking obvious how to answer that maturely and not even terribly technically. But no, he blocked me like a little bitch, which tells me that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And if you deviate any off of the script that he's delivering, he either A, makes up shit, or B, he blocks you and like recategorizes what you're asking him or whatever, and answers the question that he wanted you to ask or some shit like that. Anyway, I've dealt with enough fucking liars. It's one of the reasons why I moved from LA was that there was just so much deception. You know, you never knew anybody's true motives for doing anything. It could have been a kindness. It could have been they were being an asshole to somebody else. And it just, you know, after a while, I got sick of dealing with it. It's like, what the fuck? Do you guys just watch Friends on TV so that you know how to act tomorrow at work? And you know, you're trying to live out the fucking scripts that you're watching or some shit like that? I mean, it's like, it saddened me. You know, because there was so much other really cool stuff going on around me that didn't have anything to do with that, and it was really hard for me to find people down there that I gelled with, and even the ones that I did gel with, it seemed like they're fucking liars and thieves too. So it's like I just got sick of dealing with it. You know, that people just couldn't do what they said they were going to do or something. You know. Anyway, but yeah, CSW, I mean, I'm kind of glad for that experience now because I can spot people like him a mile away now. It's like, I'm sorry, what was that? Yeah, I don't think you're Satoshi. But yeah, the whole idea of being able to roll back people's transactions because some guardian from on high, whether it be a corporate or government entity, could be saying to the Bitcoin network, yeah, I want you to reverse this transaction because it was due to people conducting illicit enterprises, and I want you to disavow them of their money. You know what's going to happen? Not a fucking thing. The miners will keep mining on. Why? Because the moment they acquiesce to any government entity in such a manner, everybody that's holding any significant amount of value on the Bitcoin blockchain will say, okay, my funds are no longer safe here. I got to change my monetary value over to a currency that isn't willing to give in to a fucking government's mandates. Because it's obviously not safe on the Bitcoin network. And this is one of the things that I keep cautioning people about with regard to second layer solutions. Because at some point or another, these are going to be ruled by trusted third-party entities. The very people that Bitcoin was meant to extract from our commerce, our digital commerce. It's going to reintroduce these people. And these people will be able to comply. They will be able to say, yes, Mr. Treasury entity or IRS entity or U.S. government entity or Visa entity or MasterCard entity or whatever, I am willing to reverse that transaction. I am perfectly capable of doing it because it's not actually happening on the Bitcoin blockchain yet. And that's it. Your transaction doesn't go through now. You know, this is why these motherfuckers that are all about the second layer solutions, they don't talk about censorship resistance anymore. They don't talk about immutability anymore. They don't talk about these things because they are not characteristics or attributes of second layer solutions. These are ways to take these traits away from you, to rob you of them. And if you don't believe that's the intent, just go ahead. Get all into using a third-party wallet. And sure, it'll probably cost you less upfront for your transaction fees, but overall, it's going to cost you a lot more in freedom and capability of what you can do with your money. And it might not happen this year, might not even happen next year, but I do expect it to start happening on these second layer solutions. For one thing, I expect the CFTC and the SEC and all those other organizations and FinCEN to start tracking entities down that are involved in Lightning Network that are not currently licensed with either a state or a federal entity. And they are going to be issuing them subpoenas or cease and desist letters or so on and so forth. You know, we've already seen where most of it's becoming quote-unquote centralized, where about 80% of the monetary value that's out there on the network in the payment channels is owned by one entity. You know, and if it's observable now, you can only imagine when it's going to be something like, 30%, but it's between three different entities that, each one of them has 30% of the network or the monetary value that's tied up in it, in the payment channels. I don't see that as being too far off. When people get desperate enough to start using Lightning Network more, and those payment channels start occupying enough monetary value in and of themselves, I do believe we are going to start seeing some sort of enforcement actions. We've already seen where tumblers are getting busted. And these are supposedly the entities that's going to keep your money all clean and shiny and all that. No, I'm afraid not. They're going to bust them. And I mean, if you pay attention to the regulatory frameworks that they're trying to establish, they really are for that second layer solution thing. Where entities are going to be hosting, or at least providing you with the means to co-host your funds with others, either with a bank or just other individuals. They're going to be addressing these people. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But with regard to trying to do that to, say, minors, you can't really do it. Because for one thing, if you were to look at any one pool, not all of their hashing power is coming from one place. It's coming from all over the planet. Okay, so you might be able to tap on the pool operator's door and say something to him. But getting him to comply is virtually impossible, because there's the likelihood that the rest of the network is going to tell that entity that's telling him to comply, will tell that entity to fuck off. And they'll just keep mining. Because they aren't within the same jurisdiction, their government is as courageous, doesn't want to get rid of the cryptocurrency mining that's happening within their borders, because of all of the economic activity that's happening within their communities because of it, as a result of it. And they're going to be looking at those funds a lot differently than they have before. For one thing, I believe that we are going to see some more subpoenas and whatnot from the IRS, but mostly they're going to be targeting people that are big enough. They're not going to be targeting itty-bitty people. They're going to be targeting people with like $10 million and more worth of cryptocurrency. But that means like banks and whatnot. I've long believed that one of the reasons why some entities, some legacy entities have gotten involved in cryptocurrencies is to bump out other legacy entities. But I believe that there isn't a single legacy finance entity, banker or stock house or anything like that. I don't believe there's a single one of them that could endure the level of regulatory scrutiny that both federal and state agencies are wishing to place on cryptocurrency users and service providers. If they were to try and be as transparent as, say, is required for, somebody who's not a banker's kid or whatever to get a bit license in New York, if JP Morgan, were to have to start over tomorrow, right? Cut off all of their familial and all of their business contacts and whatnot. Make them start off from square motherfucking one, average Joe on the street. And make them deal with the level of regulatory scrutiny that the average person has to endure to participate within the cryptocurrency market within New York, and they will fail. They'll go fucking completely broke. Because the regulatory mandates are way more than the profit margin for that individual. But anyway, so yeah, I don't think that CSW is going to be able to reverse transactions. Getting miners to comply on throughout the planet is fucking impossible. Because there are other miners out there that will just fire up their miners when the difficulty gets low enough, and they'll make that extra coin while you're dicking around with your fucking federal entity with their hand up your ass. So yeah, no, CSW, fuck you, line sack shit. Anyway, I got this next thing I wanted to cover before we go back into music here, and it's on btcmanager.com. And let's see, who's this by? It doesn't give us an author. Let's see here. Retail, blah, blah, altcoins. This is originally from a report on Bloomberg. Aha. Oh, no, I don't want that shit. Let's see all details. Fuckers. Fucking paywall bullshit. That's okay. We know how to get around this bullshit. Going to right click, copy the link address, go to our other browser that hasn't gotten its free article limit, and use it. The rewards of data sequestration. Anyway, this one's on Bloomberg.com. Ripple can't escape XRP lawsuit, it says, could topple the market. Ooh. This is by Malathi Nayak, and this is authored February 26, 2020 at 12:06 p.m. PST. And let's check and verify something there. Check and verify. I'm going to go with the subject matter and say yes. Penis. I could be mistaken on that. My apologies if I am. Ripple Labs Incorporated failed to persuade a judge to throw out a proposed class action lawsuit that the blockchain payment service provider said could topple the market for XRP, the world's third largest virtual currency. The federal judge in Oakland, California on Wednesday somewhat narrowed the claims against Ripple, but left largely intact a complaint by investors accusing the company of selling unregistered securities. The judge disagreed with Ripple's argument that the lawsuit wasn't timely because it was filed more than 5 years after XRP was offered in 2013. Ripple said in a November court filing that if the case were to move forward, quote, it would upend and threaten to destroy the established XRP market more broadly, a market involving over $500 billion in trading over the last 2 years. The investors claimed they lost money after selling their XRP tokens because they were duped by Ripple's promotional statements. Wednesday's ruling comes amid concern that regulators will find XRP to be an unregistered security, potentially stop its trading. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission hasn't taken a position on whether XRP is a security. Yeah, it's really none of their business. Read more. Ripple is hit with class action. Well, yeah, you know we're going to do that one too. U.S. District Judge Phyllis Hamilton rejected Ripple's request to toss out claims that it violated federal securities law. Hamilton dismissed certain claims that Ripple made false statements under California law, but she gave investors another shot at pursuing those claims in an amended complaint. Ripple representatives didn't immediately respond to an email seeking comment on the ruling. Ripple fell 8.2% to about 23 cents at the close of New York trading, according to the prices compiled by Bloomberg. It has slumped about 14% this week. The cases Zakhanov v. Ripple Labs, Inc., 18-CV-06753, U.S. District Court, Northern District of California, Oakland. Let me see if there's any comments on this one. Nope. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. You know, Ripple has always been in this quandary because they've had a corporate entity established and associated directly with them. This is why Bitcoin is a quote-unquote decentralized cryptocurrency. Not only is the path of its development wholly developed by the public, and I say the public kind of loosely, I mean there are some people out there that are funded with corporate money and whatnot, but big fucking whoop-de-doo. By and large, everybody has been leveled down to a potential user. And that means a lot of things within the cryptocurrency space. That means a potential just end user, a potential code writer or code author, somebody who writes code for applications that operate within the cryptocurrency space, miners, exchanges, exchange operators, pool operators, so on and so forth. I mean, it doesn't mean the same thing for a US dollar. I mean, you can be a number of things with the US dollar, but it's relatively limited by comparison. And you certainly can't be an author of the US dollar, nor a producer of the US dollar. But you can with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And that's another place where XRP has been trying to have its cake and eat it too, where they claim it's not a security, but it's issued by a corporate entity and it's managed by a corporate entity to some extent. And that's one of the things that differentiates it from a lot of other cryptocurrencies in this space, because the average person isn't coding for XRP. The average person isn't mining or validating for XRP. They've focused from day one on trying to cozy up with banks. And to that end, they've been quite successful at it. Where they've seemed to fail, though, is actually developing any products and deploying any products that are useful to the open public, with the exception, of course, of their XRP tokens. Now, I don't see too many vendors using XRP or accepting XRP, but the potential is there. I don't see it being all that likely, though, especially not with all the red stains that are against XRP. Their pre-mine, their disbursement of coins, it's all goofy. And like I said, I think they've been trying to have their cake and eat it too. And ultimately, I believe that's going to cost not only them, but all of their users. And it won't matter what comes out with this court ruling. See, I believe in the long term, what they're going to be doing is, somehow or another, a Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency will have synthetic tokens. Tokens representing some sort of value in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency, circulated out into the wild economy and honored as such. Something other than a Bitcoin being honored at the same exchange rate and as if it were actually Bitcoin. And that XRP would be one of the means by which this would happen. We've already seen it to some extent with regard to Tether, because I don't believe there's a single stablecoin, not Tether, not any of the others out there, that are properly collateralized, or at least not collateralized in the way that they say it is. Again, this is because you actually have to trust these entities that they have the US dollars that they're issuing tokens against. And if they don't, they might as well just be running US dollars off on a printing press in their backyard or, in their garage or something like that. Because that's about what it's worth in any other context other than the exchange that it's being circulated on or the entities that it's being circulated with. And XRP is no different. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I got some Sixth playing in the background. And I think it's time. We should play some Sixth. So, what song though? I got a lot of their stuff. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they may possibly be working on a new one. I'm going to have to check on that at some point or another, but I really like their music. There's only like one or two of their songs that I don't really love, but yeah, they're very few. Anyway, let's find something good. Let's go with some Bland Straight Bloom here on CoinMetal. And that was Infectious Grooves with Three-Headed Mind Pollution. Yeah. And so, where we're going next. I think we talked about this a long time ago, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think that I actually have an episode up on my YouTube channel about this particular issue. Let's see here. Yes. No, that's not it. Darn it. Let me see here. Get back to the channel. No, gotta go to somewhere else. YouTube. And I gotta go to my channel. And then I'm gonna look up Bitcoin. Because I could have swore I talked about this when it first happened. No, that's not it. There we go. This one. Bitcoin. Yeah. There we go. I first did an episode on this January 2nd, 2019. And you can find that up on my YouTube channel. Frank Dashwood, or I think it's just listed as Frank Dashwood. Anyway, let's get back to this thing. And this is on sec.gov/news/press release. Actor Steven Seagal charged with unlawfully touting digital asset offering. And this is for immediate release. Washington, D.C., February 27th, 2020. The Securities and Exchange Commission today announced settled charges against Steven Seagal for failing to disclose payments he received for promoting an investment in an initial coin offering conducted by Bitcoin 2G, or 2Gen, B2G. The SEC's order finds that Seagal failed to disclose he was promised $250,000 in cash and $750,000 worth of B2G tokens in exchange for his promotions, which included posts on his public social media accounts encouraging the public not to, quote, miss out on Bitcoin 2Gen's ICO, and a press release titled, quote, Zen Master Steven Seagal has become the brand ambassador of Bitcoin 2Gen. A Bitcoin 2Gen press release also included a quotation from Seagal stating that he endorsed the ICO, quote, wholeheartedly. These promotions came 6 months after the SEC's 2017 Dow report warning that coins sold in ICOs may be securities. The SEC has also advised that in accordance with the anti-touting provisions of the federal securities laws, any celebrity or individual or other individual who promotes a virtual token or coin that is a security must disclose the nature, scope, and amount of compensation received in exchange for the promotion. Okay. Quote, these investors were entitled to know about payments Seagal received and or was promised to endorse this investment so they could decide whether he may be biased, said Christina Littman, chief of the SEC Enforcement Division's cyber unit. Quote, celebrities are not allowed to use their social media influence to tout securities without appropriately disclosing their compensation. That seems appropriate, but I think that's something that's like good form, bad form. If you don't do it, that's bad form. If you do it, that's good form, right? But I think in this point the SEC kind of oversteps their bounds, because think about it this way. Steven Seagal sticks his dick in the pencil sharpener and touts a cryptocurrency. Just say that he does, right? Puts his stamp of approval all over it, puts his name all over it, makes all kinds of money doing it, right? Somebody in this situation invariably will leave an immodest amount of their value, of their monetary value, in the vehicle that they are receiving the highest rate of appreciation on. In the case of Mr. Seagal's tokens, in the time of his endorsement, it would be the $750,000 worth of tokens the guy was holding. So now imagine that he's holding $750,000 worth of this coin, and the coin tanks before he has an opportunity to cash out. Because again, he will be holding this immodest amount of money in the token in question until the time that he feels he can make the most on his way out. So, if he initially dumped, we would see it. We would know about it, or we would find out about it. It's like, who cashed out the $750,000? Well, it would become noted by the issuers probably, or the people that transferred him the money, that he immediately cashed it out. Well, that could just as easily leak to the public. It always seems to leak to the public anyways. So, and again, if he had done such a thing, it could be construed as a pump and dump. It could be construed as a Ponzi scheme. If in any time the developers of the coin were brought into question due to securities improprieties or whatever, Steven Seagal would then get run through the fucking ringer, and his credibility would tank, and his ability to use that cred to dupe a whole bunch of other fucking people into investing in some shitcoin or shit token would go away. Not only that, but Mr. Seagal would probably lose a lot of sponsorship that he currently receives, like his older movies being circulated on cable television and shit. I think those royalties will go away if he were to be caught up in such a scandal. I mean, really, there's just not enough trust being given to the market. We went through this like full wholeheartedly in the 2013 through, I would say, probably 2015 period, completely unfettered. And yes, people lost money, and yes, people were scammed out of money. People lost their savings, all that other shit. People learned the hard way what lessons there were to be learned in crypto. And there are many. But the fact of the matter is you do not get the benefit of those lessons without going through them. You do not understand what people are telling you about them until you experience them yourself. Now, personally, I've never experienced any significant loss with the exception of an exchange. And that had its own little lessons. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that I went through, I entertained those risks on my own. I didn't go to the SEC and say, hey, get my fucking money back. Because I knew from the beginning that I got into cryptocurrencies, from the very beginning, that I couldn't. That the SEC has no power, the CFTC has no power, FinCEN has no power, FDIC has no power. These people do not have the power to get my fucking money back. They've got the power to possibly track down and possibly prosecute the individuals that were involved in extracting my funds inappropriately from my possession. But that's only after the fact. They can't make me whole in the meantime, no matter what CSW says. So again, these are lessons that we will learn, and worse yet, get worse yet, we will learn these things whether or not the SEC has any control or any say in the cryptocurrency space. We will experience them individually, we will experience them collectively as users of certain products and services. And there isn't anything that the SEC can do to protect us from that. The best thing they could do is to just shut the fuck up about cryptocurrencies entirely. You know they won't, because, it's something that people hold of value and will exchange for US dollars or other fiat currency. However, it really isn't their place to say anything. And regardless of what they say, people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to invest immodestly and completely without any regard for what the possible consequences may be. They're going to do that anyway. It's just a side effect of the speculative nature of investment. Not everything you invest in is going to win. Not all of it's going to win within the time you think it's going to win. Nor to what extent. It could have a much higher extent than you ever dreamed possible. Could put you on into a different class of problems. But the fact of the matter is that these entities really can't do anything to even it out. And so the best thing they can do, the very best thing they can do, is examine their current mandates with regard to securities offerings, securities entities, and what they consider fraud and theft to be. And they need to see where they could possibly improve on that. And then regulate within those bounds. Meaning all entities, regardless of whether we're talking about a legacy finance entity or we're talking about somebody that lives next door to you. And they need to do it dispassionately and without any bias. Because as soon as they start expressing some sort of bias for any particular entity, like the NYDFS does, they lose all credibility as an issuer of licensure or insurer of safety in the market. And I think this is one of the points that all entities are going to have to pay attention to in crypto, is that if you're not applying the law evenly, the market is going to find ways to show you how it disapproves. And it will. And you might not like the fact that the market can do that, but it will do that. The market has escape routes now. escape routes that it didn't have a decade ago. And so the likelihood that we're willingly going to walk into the incinerators and watch our fucking savings go up in smoke like we did in 2008 is very, very low by comparison to what it was then. Because we have vehicles that are completely outside of the regulatory realm of these federal and corporate entities. Anyway, let's get back into some other stuff here. So, yeah, don't get all excited and start telling everybody to invest in some coin, because you could get burned. Let's see here. And now, that's not what we wanted to get into. Here we go. Before we get into any more music, I wanted to cover one more article. And this one is kind of a reoccurring theme with regard to cryptocurrencies. And this kind of exemplifies what I've been talking about with regard to an escape route for monetary value during a time of financial calamity. And so here it is. It's on decrypt.co. The Case for Bitcoin in Lebanon. And this is by Liam Frost. And it was authored February 26th, 2020. Lebanese citizens are turning to Bitcoin to avoid capital controls, according to Al Jazeera. I guess we're going to go there instead of sitting here and read this Decred article. So we're on aljazeera.com, and this is by Timur Ajari. And so, yes, penis. Distrust in Lebanese banks spurs Bitcoin boom. More Lebanese are embracing the notoriously volatile cryptocurrency as the country's economy founders. And this is authored February 25th, 2020. Beirut, Lebanon. When Meir, an engineer in his mid-30s, returned to Lebanon flush with cash from working in the Gulf, he deposited his hard-earned savings in a bank, believing they would be safe. But Lebanon has spiraled into its worst economic crisis in decades. Banks have imposed informal capital controls that force people to withdraw their savings in Lebanese pounds at the official exchange rate that effectively values their savings at 40% less than what it's worth on the parallel market. Quote, "Nothing can prepare you for the shock of this," Meir told Al Jazeera. But Meir, who asked his surname be withheld to protect his privacy, is not standing by helplessly. He's trying to move what is left of his savings out of Lebanon via a financial instrument many in the country have not embraced until recently. Bitcoin. Quote, "Suddenly everything turns upside down and all the options are open," said Meir. With confidence in Lebanese banks at an all-time low over increasing restrictions on foreign currency movements, more Lebanese are turning to digital currencies like Bitcoin as a way to shift their money in and out of the country. Quote, "Right now, Lebanese are interested in escaping tight restrictions on cash withdrawals and transfers. They basically want financial freedom," 29-year-old Mohammed Dagim, who has traded Bitcoin since 2015, told Al Jazeera, quote, "If you want to go around the banking system, Bitcoin is a solution." Bitcoin, the first and most well-known cryptocurrency, is neither issued nor controlled by any government or financial entity. Rather than go through a bank or another middleman, transactions made in Bitcoin are peer-to-peer, anonymous, and verified by a centralized global network. No, it's not a centralized global network. It's a decentralized global network of computers. Since its launch over a decade ago, Bitcoin has gained legions of converts around the globe who use it to buy everything from hotel bookings to cars, laptops, and furniture. But it never really took off in Lebanon, where the central bank restrictions on purchasing Bitcoin with Lebanese credit cards, glacial internet speeds, and unreliable electricity have acted as serious impediments to adoption. Risk aversion is another reason Lebanese have steered clear. Bitcoin is famously volatile, whereas the Lebanese pound has long been pegged to the dollar, with which it was used interchangeably. But faith in the stability of the Lebanese pound has been badly shaken recently. Lebanese banks began imposing increasing restrictions in formal capital controls after a popular uprising first swept the country more than 4 months ago. Foreign currency withdrawals are now limited to between $50 and just a few $100s a month. Transfers abroad were recently capped at $50,000 a year for so-called necessary matters. Fears that the Lebanese banking system and indeed the entire heavily indebted Lebanese state could collapse have led many to invest their cash in assets rather than keep it in the banks. They have bought gold, jewelry, cars, real estate, and increasingly, Bitcoin. 7 Lebanese Bitcoin traders said in interviews with Al Jazeera that the volume of their trade had spiked since November, when capital controls were first introduced, with the value of transactions collectively reaching millions of dollars a month. Quote, "It started slow, but now it's going exponential." Simon Tadros, a 33-year-old Bitcoin trader, who is also the chief technology officer of web development firm Cnefo.com, told Al Jazeera, "Before the uprising, Bitcoin gave me supplementary income, but now it's definitely become the primary." Omar Debian, a 24-year-old Beirut-based Bitcoin trader, told Al Jazeera. Making the transaction. Moving money out of Lebanon via Bitcoin often begins with pairing buyers who want to convert foreign exchange or other hard assets into the cryptocurrencies with sellers who have a surplus of Bitcoin. These sellers profit from the transaction by charging a commission, typically between 1% and 5% of the total value of the hard asset being exchanged. Most of these transactions happen by referral, Tadros says. Quote, "It's a small community, but there are lots of scammers around, so we try to keep things close, verify and establish trust between people. Some buyers and sellers meet through groups on popular messaging groups like WhatsApp. In one such group, participants regularly post offerings anywhere between hundreds of dollars worth of Bitcoin to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth. Houses, cars, and phones have also been put up for sale in the cryptocurrency on that single group of more than 250 members. Once a buyer and seller are matched, the two are commonly used avenues for completing the transaction. The first and simplest involves meeting in person and exchanging physical cash for a Bitcoin transfer, a method referred to as over-the-counter or OTC. Quote, "Basically, this means we meet up in a Starbucks, he gives me the physical money, and right there, I transfer him the Bitcoin," Tadros explained. Debian said that one of his customers liquidated their assets in Lebanon and bought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin in cash in order to transfer that wealth to Germany. A second popular method for transacting involves buyers handing sellers a physical banker's check verified by Lebanon's central bank. These banker's checks can only be deposited in another Lebanese bank. Once the seller takes possession, they transfer Bitcoin to the buyer. Sellers charge a steep commission on this type of transaction. 25 to 40%, because the money they receive remains tied up in a Lebanese bank that could potentially collapse or impose even tighter capital controls. They also assume a normal exchange rate risk. Quote, I'm basically hedging that I'll still make a profit and the dollar won't devalue by more than 40%, a Bitcoin trader said on condition of anonymity. For buyers, though, the steep commission can be worth it, given their only alternative for moving money out of Lebanon is converting their savings at the official exchange rate of 1,500, which values the Lebanese pound at 40% less than the parallel exchange rate of 2,500. Quote, Bitcoin is protected by mathematics. Fiat traditional currencies are protected by governments. Which do you trust? And that was by Simon Tadros, a 33-year-old Bitcoin trader. Quote, it puts your mind at ease. Many Lebanese banks have allowed customers who put new money in the bank, either in cash or via transfer from outside Lebanon, to open so-called, quote, fresh money accounts that are not subject to capital controls. In theory, this allows customers all the ease of transferring money that makes Bitcoin attractive. But trust in banks has been so eroded that many fear new restrictions could be imposed at any moment, barring their access to even fresh money. Quote, we distrust the banking system, so we just don't use it at all anymore, the founder of a Lebanon-based tech company with about a dozen employees told Al Jazeera. The founder, who spoke on condition of anonymity, said they transfer about $30,000 worth of Bitcoin into Lebanon every month to pay employees. The Bitcoin is bought from a foreign account and then sold over the counter in Lebanon to established buyers. Quote, some people need to get their money out, others need to get their money in. When we find each other, we match, the founder said. Over time, we've developed stable relationships. Bitcoin is also attractive because large sums can be transferred within just a few minutes, while waiting periods for bank transfers can top a week, DBN says. Quote, fresh money takes at least a week to 10 days to be transferred, and that's if it's sent. Meanwhile, I can transfer Bitcoin in hundreds of thousands of dollars batches in less than 30 minutes. It puts your mind at ease. A 28-year-old Bitcoin trader who goes by Crypto Lira on Twitter told Al Jazeera that in addition to Lebanese, wealthy Arabs with investments in Lebanon are also turning to Bitcoin. The trader manages large Middle Eastern accounts. Quote, they just want to get their money out of Lebanon. We're talking really large sums, he said, adding that they were doing so using the banker's check method, incurring significant losses. A volatile currency for volatile times. Bitcoin has had significant ups and downs since it was launched, hitting a peak of around $20,000 in 2017 before crashing to just a few thousand. It currently sits at around 9,650. Actually, I think it's a little lower than that now. But Crypto Lira said the cryptocurrency is still a smart investment in Lebanon, given the country's uncertain financial outlook. Quote, when people talk about the volatility of Bitcoin, it's important to remember how volatile currency can be, too. I mean, just look at the Lebanese lira, pound, he said. Yes, Bitcoin is volatile, but it's volatile on the up. It's one of the best performing assets in the world. This is true for 2019. The Financial Times reported earlier this month that dedicated cryptocurrency investment funds brought in returns of more than 16% in 2019, while traditional hedge fund strategies yielded just 10.4%. However, Going back a few years, and the volatility of digital currency led many who bought in the lead up to the 2017 peak, or even in 2018, to lose large sums. Still, the inherent anarchy of Bitcoin makes it irresistible for many Lebanese living through the country's unprecedented anti-establishment uprising. Quote, "If you're fighting for a world where Bitcoin is a main currency, you're fighting for the end of all governments," Cryptolira said. Quote, "We've had the separation of church and state. Today, Bitcoin is working towards the separation of money and state." Tadros agrees. Quote, "Bitcoin is protected by mathematics. Fiat, traditional currencies, are protected by governments. Which do you trust?" Yeah. So, I don't really trust in Bitcoin as the sole option. And only because increased traffic on the Bitcoin network will invariably cause transaction fees to get higher. And this will make it impractical for a lot of the people, including myself, who wish to continue to do their business on-chain. And so the necessity to span to other options such as Bitcoin Cash, Verge, Litecoin, Monero, any one of a number of coins, gain credits, they're all out there. Library. There's all kinds of coins that you could be investing and transacting in. It's just a matter of what the people that you're doing business with are willing to accept as a currency, or a medium of payment, rather. And so with that in mind, it's, you look at the markets and it's like the most stable coin out there, or at least one of the most stable coins out there, is Doge. I jokingly was hashtagging stuff on Twitter, the Dogening, because I saw it as a kind of a situation where if Doge were in higher circulation as a medium of exchange, where it could have just as easily suited for the national fiat currency or even Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. Certainly stable enough for it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And where to go, though? That's the question. It always is. We got a lot of good stuff here. We haven't played any Slayer tonight. I think there's something wrong with that. So, I think we'll play something off of Seasons. Here it is. Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer, here on CoinMetal. And that was Textures with Illuminate the Trail. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe, do your homework, and watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, of course I haven't picked one out, because, just want to leave that last bit of excitement for the very end. And I think we got enough time. I don't think we put in any 12-foot ninja this evening, so I think we got to fix that. And as far as what song to go with, here we go. Silent Machine, Last Dance, here on CoinMetal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent weekend. Good night.